Hey y'all, welcome to another one of my videos. I'm going to be showing my recent additions to my game. I've added tons of new stuff since the last time I made a video. I have added the entire game has kind of changed to be a different kind of experience. I was more of going for something shorter and with not much going on. Now I've kind of changed its, kind of like feeling, its DNA, and now it's kind of a different game. Save games are a lot more complex, loading is a ton faster, and lots of different things. I'm just gonna go bit by bit and kind of describe what I've added by what I see first. There are step sounds and stuff like that. Also, the entire game is now based around your main elevator, which I'm calling the stew. I like the name because it's kind of fun. Stew. I like it. It stands for the Spaces Traversal Unit. It's the main center of the game that you use to go through all of the liminal spaces. Of course, you can see my notes system, but the notes system is a bit more it's complex, as in you can collect the note, read it, and then when you save and exit and load, it'll save the notes you've collected. I think I already showed that off before, but I'm just gonna go with things that I see. And then with your whole stew, you will have a control panel. I haven't added any programs to the control panel yet, but there will be a command interface, some settings for the stew, a mapping program. I want the mapping program to, you'll be able to map out the liminal spaces, kind of with your own ideas and stuff, and name them yourself. And then I'm going to have a programs program where you could input a floppy disk here, and you put it into the stew, and that will be able to load external programs from that floppy disk. And then you can also save and exit the game from here. And then you click to interact, and then you use the WSD keys to move the pointer, and it has a animation. I'm still working on the art for the stew. I'm pretty sure none of this is going to be final. I'm thinking I want the background to be more animated. I don't really like the UI interface that much. I'm definitely going to change it. And the interaction, I'm not sure if this is how I'm going to keep it. I don't think it's very intuitive. And then you have the elevator buttons. It's a little flickery. That's okay. I'm probably gonna fix that. But they flicker and glow when you hover over them, so that you can know that you can click them. And then you click the buttons, and it'll move you to the next area. There's also now a complete system called the Pickupables. It's a group of things that you can pick up and interact with. One of the first things I added was the paper airplane. You can throw the paper airplane and it glides. And this is a film roll for the camera. You see it didn't really glide. And you can throw that and it can glide and go real far. It's also, you can tell it's gliding because you can throw it at an angle and it will go that direction. It's pretty cool. I like the paper airplanes. I'm not sure how I feel about the carpet sounds. And all the art and stuff I'm probably going to redo time and time again to get it just how I want it. Here you can see a flashlight. The original flashlight of the game that I made is completely gone and reworked to be a pick-upable instead. So you can pick up the flashlight, drop it, and then you can take it wherever you want. It's also more fluid. I like how it's following the character instead of just being a static thing that you're holding. You can also turn it off and on. Pretty cool. I like that. There's also hit sounds and stuff, so if I can also throw objects. If you throw an object at something that has a material metadata, it will also, if that material metadata has like a sound to it, it will play that sound if it hits. It's also how the step sounds work. This also will do it with the carpet. And this is something new I've added that I'm really excited about, is the camera. You can see if I move the camera this way, you can look through the camera, and it is looking through the position there, so you can like see if I put something in front of it. It's from the camera's perspective. And then I can take this piece of film roll. You see if I interact with it, I'm pressing the like interact button to interact with something. It's not doing anything yet. But if I take the film roll, I can put it into there, and the film is now in the camera, and I can take a photo. And then I have a photo that I've taken. The photo also saves what is inside of the photo, so it knows that's like an area in front of the camera, so it knows all of the objects that are inside of the photo. I think it's pretty cool. And then there's also, if you press escape, I'm probably going to remove the saving and stuff from the main menu, because I want you to primarily save your game from the stew, to make the stew feel like a safe space more, that this is like your main area that you kind of exist within, and it's like a safe area. But then, yeah, so you can take as many photos as you want until the camera runs out of film. And then once you run out of film, the film roll will be emptied, and then you'll have to put in a new one. And then, so this saves all of these photos to the disk and loads them. And when you save and load the game, it also will reload all of the objects that are in the game, so you'll be able to put these photos wherever you want, and it will save them and it will reload them. And yeah, I really like this. I'm going to, in the future, I think what would be a really good game mechanic is to make the photo taking and photo system, I want it to have like a goal. So I want gates within the world where you'll have to input a photo into the gate, and then the gate will be like asking for a certain photo of something. So say for instance, I have to take a photo of the paper airplane. I would just, take a photo of it, and if it's within that range, it saves all of the objects that are in that range, just as an array of the name of all of them. And then if one of those things are inside of that array, it will then, let you through, or either like activate something. I'm probably going to make it a standalone thing so that I can activate anything with that, instead of it just being like a gate or something. Yeah, I really like this. This is kind of like a first area that I've been working on. It's probably not going to stay the same. You can see there's like light leaking going on from the environment. It's okay. I'm still working on it. I'm really liking the materials I've been making. I've been making them with Material Maker, which is a open source and free program. Definitely support the people that are making it if you can. It's a really good program. I've made most of my materials now with that program. Even the camera itself, the blocks true capture, I made I drew it in Blender, where I did the texture painting, but then I also took this texture painted just the texture, and then I took it into Material Maker, and then I added the scratches and the normals and stuff to it that I wanted, so that certain parts of it were more reflective or less reflective, just so I could get that really cool look to it. You can see like the scratches have a different reflectiveness, make it look like they've actually been scratched. I really like the look of this. I don't know if I'll change it anymore because I really like it. You can see like the blocks true capture. That's what I'm calling the name for this film camera. It's like, it looks like it's indented and stuff, even though it's like just flat geometry. I really like that. I also really like how you can see through the camera while you're using it, so you can zoom in, take a really good photo, so you can know what you're taking. And then yeah, you can look at this and be like, wow, look at my photo. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to the next area. And also, you can see that in your menu, I've made the notes menu where you can collect a note, but then you can also press E on an object and you can store it inside of your backpack. And your backpack, you have an amount of space that you can store things, and that space will fill up as you store more things. I'll probably make the paper airplanes way less, but yeah. And if you put something in your backpack and you're holding something, it will then swap instead of just taking it out, which I really like. I could probably also add some more mechanics to that, but I think that's pretty good. I'm going to redo the entire GUI here. I'm planning on adding more survival elements to this game, so I'm probably also going to add a stats menu and whatnot to this menu as well. Okay, now I'm really going to move to the next area. Oh, but check this out, the photos. They also store the information, so you can put it in your backpack, no worries. I'm also working on the sounds and stuff like that. Some of the sounds are a placeholder. I haven't made all of the sounds myself. I'm planning on making all the sounds myself, just so I don't have any copyright issues. This area is not user-friendly. I'm definitely going to redo it, and you'll see why. Over here, you have power orbs. So in the game, I used to have the dream orbs that you would collect, but I don't know, it felt odd to me. I didn't like how you collected them, and they didn't feel physical. I want the game to feel more physical. So you have these power orbs that I've added instead, and you can put them inside of these battery holders. When you put them in here, they'll then activate the button system, or the wire system, and then it will activate something, like the lights. And then when you go back into the level, they will have these things already populated and activated, so that light will then be on when you go into the level again. Same as like if I add these things to turn on a door. In this room, you can see that there are fish. I want my liminal spaces to not be completely void. I do want there to be life within these spaces, so I've added fish. I really like the fish. I love them, honestly. I'm really proud of them. They just simply try and choose a target every so often, and they try to move towards that target, and they change their basis to go towards that target. They also go up and down. Oh, that fish is pushing that fish up. Trying to push it above the water. Look at them. Crazy fish. Look at that fish. Yeah, so they will try and change their target, but if their target is outside of the water, the target won't try and go outside the water, so they aren't like trying to go onto land or anything like that. If their target is outside of water, it will then like put their target to be back at them and then away from them again. So you can see that like they're trying to go to a wall, but then they kind of realize it, and then they don't keep going towards that wall. And they move pretty lifelike. I like how they are fighting the buoyancy of the water. So they will go up, and then they will go down, they feel like fish. I love them. They're also, they were texture painted in Blender, and then I took that material, I took that texture, and then put it into Material Maker to give it some more normals, to give it some more depth to the texture. I really like them. They make me really happy. I think if I were to make them any better, I want you to be able to eat them. I want it to... You can currently take the fish out of the water, because they are pick-upable, so you can just pick them up. What I want is, if they're outside of the water for too long, it's kind of sad, but I want them to die, so you can like cook them and eat them or something. You can also put them in your backpack. But right now, they just kind of like flop around if they're on the land, and they'll just kind of flop forever. Just kind of sad. I'm going to make sure this guy goes back in the water. Their fins are just moving with a sine wave. Their sine wave rate changes depending on how fast they're choosing to go. I really like that. I think it's cool. It makes them feel very lifelike. They also will run away from you if you get too close. Just look at that. Or run away? Swim away. They got legs. Look at them swim away. I love them. They feel so lifelike. They make me really happy. Yeah. They're the best. I've also added water particles in these pipes. I'm going to add tons of decorative things that are also useful. This photo, you can see it's like the little drips are actually dripping onto it, and it's stopping the water particle. I might make some new sounds for it too. All the sounds are placeholder. Some of the textures are still placeholder. I'm just kind of working through things and adding new things as I go. Yeah, I really like this system. Anyway, that was some of that stuff from that level I've been working on. These are all test levels, but the test levels are getting more complex as I go until I add more stuff. Also, you can see when I'm going back and forth, when I'm loading a new level, the doors are closing, the new level is loading. Look at that. No loading screen. No freaking loading screen. Isn't that awesome? I remember in how my game used to be, when you would go to a new level, it would take ages to load that level. What this main elevator is doing is, once you go into this environment, it's kind of like it's going through a list of the levels, but then it's loading the level that's next in the list. So the next level is already loaded and it's in the resource loader. So when I go to this next level, it really doesn't take any extra time to load it, and you can just like do stuff in your elevator while the levels are loading. I think that's really cool. Anyway, this is the next level. You have some turbines in the background. I love them. They feel very atmospheric. You can see the environment here. And yeah, this is where I'm going to show the next thing. I want my game to have survival element and all sorts of stuff. So you can see here there's some like dead plants and some like divots in the ground and dirt and pots. Some stuff here that looks like a big seed and a watering can. You can also hear water drips over there. This area is going to keep getting more complex. I'm probably going to redo it in the future. But you can... There's some water drips over here. So I'm going to put this watering can below the water particle. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take this trowel. And I'm going to dig. And so when I dig, the ground will start to have a divot wherever I've put a farm tile. And I can make a divot in the ground by using my trowel. And I can throw my trowel, I can pick it up, put it in my inventory. you can dig. I also have versions of my farm tile that are in these pots. And these can be moved around. And so with this system, I can take a seed and then I can plant it. You can see like there's like dirt particles. Probably gonna add some sounds for this as well. You see there's a little seedling. And it's growing. You can see it start growing. It's also moving. I didn't want it to move yet. That's a bug. But I can do this. And so these ones are now also starting to grow some seeds. So I can put some in there. I'm gonna come over here, put one in here. And it's kind of like Minecraft in that way, where the seed is immediately a sprout. Just so you can visually tell that something has been planted there. Put one there. It's just some video game logic for you. And then these ones are like a teeny bit smaller. I did kind of want to make them the same size, but I was not the best at math. Stay in school. You can also dig up these dead plants so that you can start growing new things there. And this watering can has been filling up with water. I'm gonna come over here and we can see that I can water my plants. Probably gonna redo that sound. It's not the best, but I do really like the system here, where it's just a pick-upable system, but once you turn its like basis vector down enough, I want you to have to drink water as well. And when you drink the water, you're gonna have to like pour it on yourself. Yeah, so I can water my plants. I don't know if there was one there or not. Yeah, I really like this system. I think it's really cool being able to water your plants. If you water them too much, it will kill the plant. Yeah, and now the plant's growing. They grow a little bit faster when they are watered. You can see that the soil gets more reflective when it's watered because it has water in it. It's gonna be more reflective, and then when it gets dry, it's not reflective anymore. And since whenever you're going in between levels, this won't exist anymore in the game, technically, when you're going to another level, just to like, save on memory and stuff. These farm tiles are no longer in the world, so they have to update their stuff outside of the world, so they are being updated within a global script. So it saves all of the information to I think it's a dictionary of all of the indexes of the farm tile, and then it has all the information about the farm tiles within that dictionary, and then I'm just iterating through that and updating all of its information. And then these farm tiles are just kind of visually representing that information, and also taking in information like the water particles being hit, and when you interact with it, it's also updating that information to the globals. I'm gonna go over some of the code later in this video. My code's not the best, okay? I'm still learning. So if anything isn't proper, it's okay. I'm still learning. This is pretty dang good though for one of my first games that I've actually been working hard on for a while. I've been putting a lot of work into this. And then I'm gonna come back to this area so we can see that it visually updates when I'm not in the level. I'm gonna take some photos. The moon there. Anyway, just this level. Still working on it. I thought it'd be cool to test out all sorts of stuff. So this level is a little bit larger. And there's some seeds here, just kind of in the dirt. I'm gonna take them with me. There is a bit of a limitation I've added with the flashlight. I might change it in the future. I might add a drop key instead of clicking to drop, because right now if I click this, I'm not going to be able to pick up this, or if I do that, yeah, it's not going to pick this up. I'm just going to drop that instead. I might change that in the future, but for right now, this is how it is. You kind of gotta do that so you can see, pick it up. I don't know, it's kind of like your one-handed painting that I've made. Quite like that painting. I think I gave it to someone. It's actually quite small in real life. In here, it's like an old museum. It's abandoned. See some of my stuff in here. I'm going to make this area... I'm going to change this area completely, actually. I'm not sure about keeping this at all. All this stuff I'm going to change eventually. Yeah, so, interesting bug. I don't know why it's blue. You see that it cools down the button so that I can't keep pressing it over and over. But it only shows up blue like that from this side. Like what kind of... How'd I mess that up? I don't get it. Why it's flashing so much and then why it's... It's not doing it now. When I'm far enough away and... I don't know. It's kind of a funny bug. I'll fix it eventually. I am now back in here, and you can see that the plants have grown considerably larger. One of them has even gotten way bigger so that it's currently ripe right now. And so is that one. And they are still growing, but they have grown enough that I can harvest them. There's about to be some video game logic here. You can take these pots wherever you want, which I think's fun, so that if you wanted to grow some plants elsewhere, you could. Anyway, the video game logic. You take out your trowel, and you can harvest these plants. See, it's like the thing at the top is much smaller than that one. Eventually they do grow large enough to look the same, but I don't know. That's just some like art stuff. I could have fixed the art to be a bit better, but hey, I like it. So the purpose of this plant is to be a bulb. It's like a cross between a plant and a light bulb. And then you can throw it. It can light your way. You could like throw it down somewhere to see how far down it goes to make sure you don't jump down a shaft or something. Or you could just take it with you to light your way. You could like throw one to see what's in front of you. Because your flashlight only goes so far, right? It only penetrates the darkness for so much. The plants, they will eventually rot when they've been growing for too long, so you will want to come back and harvest your plants. There's also sounds for these ones, where you can throw them at each other. This is a sound I've recorded, same as the water drips. I actually like this sound. I'm probably going to keep it. It's like just a mason jar hitting another mason jar. But it works, you know. It's pretty good. So I can go and take all these bulbs with me. I can put them in my backpack if I want to. I can't run with these ones because they're heavy. You can't throw them very far because they're heavy. And then so this is a pick-upable, but it weighs a lot, so you can't put it in your inventory. I'm gonna go back into my stew, and we're gonna check out the saving and loading. Whenever you exit, it saves the game as well. You can resume your save. I'm probably gonna add save slots. I think save slots would be essential to the game. But right now I don't have save slots, I just have the one save. And yeah, you can see how fast loading was. That's pretty good, right? I like that. So yeah, you have that. it saves all the stuff. It saves the farm tiles. See that plant's still there, still growing. Saves the location of all of the pickupables. Saves their data as well, so this camera still has a film roll in it. Saves the data within all the photos, so this photo is loading the image that's been saved to disk. It also saves the stuff that was inside the photo, so you could use it for later, for other things. The watering can, all your stuff, the amount of water that was in it, stuff like that. It's important. You don't want to lose anything, right? Pretty sure that's all I've added for now. Of course, there's some bugs and stuff like this. I gotta fix some visual things. Gotta do more things for the stew. Gotta add stuff like that, the programs. I have to make lots of more liminal spaces. I gotta actually finish them up, make them proper, add sounds for things, add some proper sounds, record some good sounds. So yeah, that was pretty much all I've added for my game. My Liminal Exhibition. I might change the name. Right now I'm pretty stuck on that name. I can't really think of a better one. Yeah, you can see all this data that I've added. I like this. It's really nice. I like being able to use the print rich in Godot to make this look real good. So let's look at my scripting here. Let's see, what about I want to go over? Let's go over my main elevator. I wanted to show how it's doing stuff. So what it does is, you got our first function here, the ready function, that get calls first, and then we're just adding our player variable to what the player is. We're connecting signals to functions, and then populating the saved pickupables that are within the level. We're waiting for a moment, and then we're placing the level that has been in the level last, and then we're waiting, and then we're moving the door. The place last level function is if it's a new game, we load the starting level, which will be like the first one that you go to, and then we're going to change that level and then set the current level to that starting level. And if it's not a new game, we're going to load the last level that we've been to, make that the current level, and then change that one. And then getting the root is just getting all these variables to be able to change things to it. Like we're getting the, yeah, so that's what this is looking for is in the main level. So we can see what it's doing is it's checking for all the stuff in the main level, and then if it's this node, I am then setting the elevator pickupable spot to that. So I'm doing that because I want all of the pickupables that I'm putting into the level to be under this specific node, so that I can iterate over all of the children that are within that node, so that I can look them up, know how many are in there, and all that stuff. Once we do the placing of the last level and stuff like that, we're doing the change level threaded. And then what this does is we are looking for the parameter. So I want like the number of the level. So my levels, they are, let's see, I'm just loading all of the levels from a folder because I want it to make it easy for me. So I'm just numbering my levels, like level 1 through 9 here, just so I can make it easy for myself to add new levels, because I just want to go through them. I'm making it so that your elevator is just wrapping through all the levels that exist. I think that's a fine way to do it right now. I think that's pretty cool, because my current button code, it's not a toggle button, it's a on-off button, so this toggles the buttons. So button 0 and button 1 are then turned off. And then I am saying that the elevator has then been toggled to true so that the doors are closing. I could probably make that more readable. And then I'm looking for all of the children that are within the main level, so everything that's within here. And then if it has the metadata of level, so what it does at the start is what it will do is I have this null level node here, and this has the metadata of level. So if one of the nodes in my thing here has the metadata of level, it will look for that. It will then set that one as the current level, and then it's going to look for its name, and then I want to change that level. So we're then calling another function where I'm taking in the level that I found that's in the main, and then I'm trying to change it to the new level that I want to change it to. And then I'm then removing that level. And then after I remove that level, we're doing this change level script. So I got this one where it's doing all that stuff. I'm finding the level that I want to change it to, I'm finding the level that exists already, and then I'm removing that level. And then I'm going here, and then I'm changing the level. We're setting the last level to the current level so that I can know what level has last been loaded. So then we're loading a request on the resource loader to get the next level. So I'm wrapping through the levels of the new level and the level's size. So because I'm using the last level to get the new level, because I'm just going through. Okay, yeah, makes sense. And so I'm wrapping through that, and then I'm getting the level that's before and after the new level, and I'm loading that just so when you go back through, the level that was previous is loaded and the level that was next is loaded. We're selecting a new level and we're instantiating it. So we're getting the level that has then been loaded, which is the next level. So that has already been called by the resource loader last time you press the button. So then that has already been loaded in the resource loader, so I'm getting that and I'm instantiating it. Our new level name is getting set to the metadata of that level. So if we go look at our levels, we can go to level 1, and the level 1 metadata is level 1. So I can use that information. We're looking through all of the children in the new level, or the selected level, and then we're trying to find the placed level objects node, and then we're setting the pickupable spot to that one. So we have our level pickupable spot and our elevator pickupable spot, so that I know where all of the pickupables within the level is and where all the pickupables that are in the elevator. And I'm also setting that to a global variable within the player variables so that I know, so I can access that within any other node. And then I'm saying that I've been done loading the level after all of that. And then I call that first to false so that I know that I'm no longer doing the first level loading. I'm not sure why I have that, but it's probably useful somewhere. And then I'm waiting, and then I'm setting a variable to true for the bin to level so that I know that if it's level 1, I set that to true, so that I will know I've been to that level before, so that I'm not repopulating objects for the first time over and over again. And then I'm setting the node. I've already explained that one, but I'm making sure that I can access the node of where all the objects are placed within the level, because I'm populating all my objects with an object placer so that it makes it really easy to add new objects. So I have all these object placer nodes here that place new things for me. So I can be like, okay, well, I want another film camera, or another film for my film camera. And I don't want to keep adding new nodes to my scene tree, because that gets annoying to look at all through those nodes. So I have this thing called my object placer. I'm going to remove the rotation from this. So I have this ghost here. So this one isn't a object that exists yet. This is just under my placer helper. So I can go over here, I can be like, okay, I want a object to be over here in front of my flashlight. I can be like, okay, I want it like around there. I can be like, place. And then you can see that that populates my film roll, and I can move my object placer thing away from there, and it's there. That'll be in the level next time I load into the level for the first time. It only does this for stuff like pickupables for the first time, because I don't want to keep populating that over and over again. So I have my object placers here, but then in my level, I have a script called my level object loader, and that's the thing that will then repopulate all the objects that are saved within the level, so you can put an object wherever you want in a level, and it will save its position, how many objects are in a level, so on and so forth. And then your main elevator also populates the saved pickupables that are within the elevator, because the elevator and the level is separate. You can see this level, there's no elevator there. Your level and your main elevator are separate things. They don't exist together. I have to, because I wanted it to, you'd be able to take an object from one level to another, I had to make it so you have this main level that's getting loaded first, and then we're loading the level separate to that, so that you can change the level, save the levels that are in there, bring them to and from them. So I have to populate the saved pickupables that are within this area of the elevator. Yeah, if it's within this area of the elevator, all those objects are saved in that area. And then if it's a pickupable, for all the pickupables that are inside of there, we are new objects. We have a global script that has all of those objects already loaded, because there might be a ton of different objects, and I don't want it to be loading those all at once every time. That would make the loading times quite much, so I have it loading once for the first time when you start the game. And then it's also so that when you're populating the objects in a new level that you've already been to, there might be a ton of objects, so I have it already loaded, and then we're instantiating them. And then we're setting the position of those objects and their rotation and stuff, and then their data, and then their index. And then that cools down my buttons. Whenever I want to cool them down, I can just call that and it cools down both of them. And then this is my button reacting function, where I'm checking for if the button has been pressed up or down, we are going to cool down the button, and then we are going to change the level. We're in our button react script, we're cooling down the buttons, we're emitting that we're changing the level so that I can know within the game that we're about to change the level, so I can pack things up, make sure they're good before the level changes. And then we are saying whether we're going to load the next level or the previous level based on the button that's been pressed. So if the button index 1 has been pressed, or button index 0 has been pressed, we're reacting to that. And then after we do that, we're moving the doors, so if that time is more or less than, we're closing the door, and then if it's toggled and we're not loading the level or loading the level, we're moving these doors, so that if we're loading the level, we're going to keep these doors closed, and if we're not loading the level, we're going to keep it open. That's just so in case if the level hasn't been loaded yet, we're not going to open those doors. Our change level process, we're seeing if we're loading the level, if the player is inside of the area of the elevator and the door time is less than that, we are going to then do that. And then if we're loading the next or the previous, change the next level that we want to go to. So we're seeing the current level, which I'm saving. So the last level is going to be the current level. The current level is the last level that's been added to it. And then we're adding 1 or subtracting 1 to that number, and it's wrapped so that we're not going outside of how many levels that exist, with the size -1. So it's wrapping between that, it's adding, and then going through that, and then it won't ever, since it's wrapping through that, it won't get out of that array and be trying to load a level that doesn't exist. And then light random is just we're tweening through the property of the light energy and the emission, and that was to make that you saw that the light was flickering in the game, in the elevator, so that's what that does. And we're just changing a random, just for a random chance for that to happen. And under the process, we're doing that, we're checking if I'm going to load the next level or not. Probably can make that better, since I don't have to do that all the time. I could probably just do that with the button press. But you know what? It's fine. Right now it works. I'll probably change it later. This is the script that saves all the objects. So we are going through, we're saving all of our pickupables, we're saving all the bodies that are inside of there. First, what we do is we take that array and we get rid of it. We set it to a blank array. And then after that, we add all of the pickupables that are inside of that elevator. And so for all of them, we just append the index, their positions, and then their data that I want to be saved. Cool. And then when I enter that area, we're seeing if the pickupable already has the index of the body that's inside of there, I don't do anything. If it doesn't, we append the pickupable that's in there, just so I can know what pickupables are already in the elevator. And then I'm also setting, it's the body's internal variable, if it's a pickupable, to inside elevator, so I can know within the pickupable that it's inside the elevator or not. Same as for the player, because I want to know that information. and then same for when I exit it. So yeah, that's my main elevator. It took me a moment to describe everything that this is doing. Definitely could make it better. There's some things I could make more performant, like I probably don't have to be checking all the time if I am changing the level or not. There's definitely a better way to do that. But hey, at least I'm not vibe coding it. For my level loading script, it does pretty much the same thing as we're saving the populated objects, where we populate the objects and we save them. So populate the objects inside the level. We're just going through all the levels that are inside of the like the globals, like the player variables, the pickupables that are inside the level, and then we're populating through that and adding each one, and we're skipping the ones that are inside the elevator in case they. So I haven't had this happen in a while, so I could probably remove this. I think I fixed that. I was having an issue there. I don't really need this anymore, I don't think. And then we're adding this to the placement spot, and that placement spot will be, this level doesn't have that. Let me go to level 1. So then we're adding it to this node, so I can know all the objects that are inside of this node, and then we're populating it to that node. And then we're doing that over all of the pickupables that are inside the level. And then the level name that I got from the main elevator. I think the current level name is actually, it's getting it from this script, not the elevator. We're seeing the self get meta, and this is level 1. So it would do it from all the ones that are in level 1. You could mess it up so that if you were to change this to be level 2, and you close the game, open it, change that to level 2, it would populate all the objects that are from level 2. That's interesting. And then we're getting the placement spot to place it to. And then saving it is just, if I've been to the level and it's true, we do this, we get rid of that, and then I want to redo all the all the objects that are inside the level, so I delete the array and then I redo the array, and then for all of the objects that are within that spot, if it doesn't have any objects in it, we're just going to say that I haven't saved any objects, just so I can know I had that there for debug. And then if it's a pickupable, we are seeing if it's an elevator, and then we're doing all that stuff. And then I'm printing the metadata and all that, just so I can know what's been saved and what's not. That was just to help me in debugging, so that I could know what issues were happening. Because when I was doing this, I was finding that some stuff wouldn't populate the right way or whatever, but I got it working. Pretty great. This is just a function that doesn't do anything. I was trying to make it so it would save it on the tree exiting, but I found that it was better to save the populated objects, I think from my signals instead. Yeah. And then this might be some yandere dev code here, but this is my pickupable code. It's pretty long. You can see it's a ton of code. I found out that I loved metadata, and then I started using it everywhere. It's pretty great. It's really powerful. So I have all this data that I want my pickupables to have, like their index, whether or not they're cooling down or not. I could definitely make my own classes and extending those classes, but I like this. This is simple for me right now. If I want to change it in the future, I totally can, but I've got a good system that I like, and I can use a lot of this data. Whether or not it's probably not great to have each one of my pickupables have this many variables, right? It's probably not the best. But right now it works. You can have tons of pickupables in a level before anything happens bad. It's pretty great. It's good for what I need right now. And we're setting its gravity to project setting its gravity. We're seeing the sound player that I want to be played. You know, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty useful. A lot of these are just null because I want them to be set by the metadata. So if it's a plant pot, like I want its relevant data to be set to the farm tile index, right? Because I want to know which farm tile is on the plant pot. For the watering can, I want its relevant data to be the water fill amount, because I'm using that relevant data to then be populated by everything else, so that I didn't have to keep all of these different variables. I wanted my level loading script to be quite simple. So I have this relevant data that's a variable between all the pickupables that's getting set to a bunch of different things for each pickupable. Like for my for my film camera, the relevant data is just getting set to a float because I want that to be how many photos you can take. And the reason it's a float is because when I save a JSON file, if I set it to be an integer, it changes it to a float. What the heck? Like, what? Why are we doing that? You know? Why does that happen? I don't know. I worked around it by just making it floats. And if it really can't be a float, I can change it back to an integer. It's fine. I won't encounter floating point errors because I'm not like changing this to be a really large amount or anything like that. So it works fine. Yeah, so we got all this information for our photo. If it's null, we want our image to be the image that's from the path that we're getting if it's not null. We have a bunch of information here that's getting set. Like for our fish, I have made it kind of modular so that I can add more fish if I want. Like the target of the fish, where it wants to go to, its detection area, and the fins. So that if I want to add another fish that looks different or has a different like AI, for example, like if I wanted to add a piranha that wants to bite you instead, I could just set its fins to its fins, and then I can use the script that's already there, or the function that's already there. And so I have this change parent function, and this is useful because every once in a while I will be changing its parent, whether or not if I throw it, pick it up, do stuff, because I want to know whether or not I want to put it on the pickupables node in the level or the elevator, because I want to be able to save these things. If it's in the elevator, we're reparenting it to the elevator node, and if it's not, we're reparenting it to the level node. And then this is true here because I want to keep its transform. I don't want the transform to be changing. I want it to be kind of seamless when it's going into the elevator or the level. And then we're picking it up. I used to have my pickup script just if I'm interacting with the object itself, it would be picking it up or not picking it up. It would just flip between that variable to know whether or not it's picked up. But I just recently changed that so that I only change it's picked up if its held object is not the interact body, so that the object that I'm interacting with, I have to make sure that that's not the object that I'm already holding, so that I can't pick up multiple objects at once. I had an issue where if I clicked on one object and then I made it so the raycast that was detecting the thing that I'm interacting with, if it was hovering over a different object instead of the object that I was already holding, then it would hold both of them. Did not want that. So I made it so we're checking for that. And then we're changing the parent, and then we're moving the collision so that you can't surf with objects. So if you hold an object below your feet, it's not going to be colliding with you, so that you aren't surfing. And then if it's picked up, we add the collision. I could probably change that. Why are we removing and then adding? I could probably make that better. Probably don't even need that there, actually. I think that was because if not picked up, if picked up. Huh. Yeah, because I have that in my... This does not need to be here. I'm pretty sure I could remove that. Then it would work fine. I'll do that later, because I don't want to do that right now. And then we have this lock to player function. So if it's picked up, and if that player variable is not null, so that I'm not like, if I haven't found the player yet, it won't bring me an error and then crash the game. We're setting a bunch of stuff like the Kdenlive, on top, thrown, all that kind of stuff to false, so that we're not like doing stuff I don't need to. And then we're setting its held object to self, if it's not self, so that I can know exactly the object that I'm holding. This is useful, for instance, here, or for when I put it in my backpack and stuff like that. And then we're getting our camera angle, we're setting our holding speed, so that like if I have a really heavy object, I could make it so I move slower. And then add something so that if it was too heavy and I was looking way up, it would drop it. I don't know if I'll have that anymore, but it was actually kind of cool. So that's still there. And then this function exists, this part of the function exists, so that if I get too far away from the object, it will just drop it. So that if something funky happens with it, it'll make sure that I'm not holding an object. We make sure that while I'm holding the object, it's not doing any physics stuff, so I'm sleeping the object, make sure it's not doing anything. And then if the object is a tool, if it has the tool metadata. So we saw that the flashlight was in a different position than like the film or the camera, for example. So I wanted the flashlight to be at a different position, so I'm setting its global position to a spot of the player. I should probably make this a variable that gets set at the ready so it's more readable. I'm not like getting the child every time. That'd be way better. But what that's doing is, if I go to my player script, we can see that look at our camera. I wanted this to be based on the camera. We have these spots that are just markers. So pick up spot tool. We have our ray end and our ray end spot. That was useful. I have a ray cast so that I can know. The ray cast is useful. I can know how far I want it to. Well, the raycast is it does just go, but the ray end was useful so I could know where I want the raycast to be casting to. But I also use the ray end for the pickup spots that I can like be pointing it in the direction I want to. And so we're doing that. We're setting its position to there. So if we go through and look, the second one under the second one under the camera, I should probably change that so it makes it more readable, and so if I change this around, it wouldn't change anything. Go 0, 1, 2, that's the pickup spot. 0, 1, 2, 3, that's the pickup spot tool. Right? Should definitely change this, but I'll change it later. A lot of things are, I'll change it later when I need to, but you know, that's kind of the great thing about this is I go around and I'll change things to be better when I feel like changing things to be better. I'll go around, change the art when I want it to be better. It's kind of like a Minecraft build in that way, right? Like you have a bunch of different projects that you're working on in your Minecraft world. You get bored of one, you go change the other thing. Yeah, you get bored of that, you go build another thing that you've been working on, so that you don't get burnt out on one specific thing. I can always be working on something that I want to be changed. It's nice. I really like that. So if we are interacting with it and I don't have my pause screen, my little screen where I can resume, exit, and get things out of my backpack, I change its parent and then I drop it. So I change its pickup to false. If its pickup is false, I won't be changing its position anymore. And then I make sure that I'm not holding an object anymore, make sure the player can move. I'm pretty sure that's also how I don't sprint anymore, is I set that holding speed mod, and then if it's over a certain amount, I won't be able to sprint anymore. And that's based on the mass of the object, right? And then we're removing that collision exception so that I can then collide with that object again. And then I have an await here because I was running into a race condition where I have my pickup here bound to the signal of me interacting with stuff. So when I click, I have this interact signal happening, and that connects to the pickup. But then I'm also checking during our locked player script if I interact, so I need to have that wait so that I wasn't, then when I click it would drop and then pick it up so that I wouldn't drop it. And I have our equipment use, which is just F right now on the keyboard, and that's bound to just to the function use the pickupable, but it does a bunch of different things. And then we have our scroll to rotate object. So like you could see I was like moving objects with my scroll wheel, and we're checking if we're scrolling up or scrolling down, if we have the metadata can fill, we're doing something different. So I think with my can fill, I was wanting to change its basis to, I wanted that to be a bit above the player's position so that it would tip down a bit more, but that's only if I'm scrolling up. Nice. And if else, it's just going to go to the player position. I think because I did that because when I was trying to tip the watering can over, I was having a hard time to get it to feel good with the right, like, tipping at the right amount. That's why I increased this vector by just a little bit above the player. And then if I'm scrolling down, I am then trying to get the direction towards the 0, 1, the right end. So I'm trying to get the direction to here instead of the player. And that's how I set its basis, so that when we're scrolling down, we're trying to point its basis at your right end, and if we're scrolling up, we're pointing it towards the player. And then we're doing that by a certain amount on the delta. That also means that if you're using a controller, you press like the up or down button on your controller, it will move smoothly instead of being like how it would move just a little bit on that. I could, because that's if action press, so that it would move smoothly. If you're using keys, I think that, I want to test that real quick. Hold on. I want to see. Hold on. I'm curious. What? My mouse isn't captured. Okay. Hold on. I did! So you can use your up and down keys. So that's how it will look when you're using like the keys or the buttons on your controller instead of using the mouse. I like the mouse using the scroll wheel because you can get it exactly how you want it. Useful for this if you want to get like a really exact photo. And then if it's a tool where setting its look direction towards a different one, we're saying we want that right end tool. So I want it to be just a little further and beyond the right end so that it would look proper when I'm holding a tool instead of a regular pickupable. And then if I press the zoom key, we throw it. And we're changing its parent after a second, because I found that if I changed it right as soon as I threw it, it would have an issue where it would be trying to save it within the elevator because its parent would be the elevator instead of the level. So I have it wait just a second, because if you throw something, usually within a second it won't, it will either be in the elevator or will not be in the elevator. I'm sure you could fuck it up somehow, but right now I have it like that. And then if we're not picked up, we set it sleeping to false so that it does physics. Cool, yeah. And then this is some stuff for the little chompers. Oh, shoot, I didn't show them. I want to show them off. Hold on. I think that would be real cool. Look at that. My little guys. So these are now pickupables. Enemies that you can pick up. And they wanna get you and they damage you if they touch you. They're much better than the ones that existed before. And now that I've added the sounds for the carpet, they actually make carpet sounds too. That's interesting. They're also quite a bit smarter than they used to be. So if I put this guy here, they will know that they're in front of a wall, and they'll back up so they don't get stuck. They're so interesting. I don't know, I like them. I think they're neat. I think that's cool. Anyway, I was going over my pickupable script. This was a script to check whether or not I wanted the if the pickupable collides with a specific layer of the collision, I was changing its can glide to false, so that if the like the paper airplane hits a wall, it will no longer be gliding. And then I did have it so that it wouldn't be picked up anymore, but I found that that was atrocious. Like, you would just ever so slightly touch a wall and then you drop it. That's not how things work in real life. You don't just ever so slightly graze a wall with something and then you drop it. That's not how that works. So I changed that, and I made it so that my wall collisions were thicker, and just a bunch of other things. Same as the aggressive wall check. So I was checking every 0.05 seconds whether or not I was colliding with something. Also, didn't want that either, so I don't use it anymore. It's still there though. I haven't gotten rid of it yet. I probably will eventually, but yeah. So I have this use pickupable script, which gets used for 3 different pickupables so far, where or function. Where if it's a trowel, I just say that I'm using it, and then in the player it is moving that node, the tool node, forward and backward, so that it looks like I'm using a tool. So that if I have any other pickupable that I want to be used that way, I just do the same thing. And then for the flashlight, I'm just toggling the light, and then setting its light to be toggled and stuff like that, and then playing the sound. Also, for the flashlight, it's not saving any of that information, so the flashlight will just be on if you leave it somewhere and then go back. It's like a ghost goes and turns it on, or one of the chompers. And then for my film camera, it's quite complex for this part of it. So if it's a film camera, we are checking whether or not its relevant data is more than 0, so that's how many pieces of film, or how many photos you can take with the film roll. And then we're subtracting that by 1, and then if it is 0, we are going to make that visible to false. That's just so that if it were 1, and then if it's 0, so if it's 1 first, then -1, that's going to be 0, then 0, make that film roll invisible. The film roll is part of the one that you see on the camera, is just part of the camera. And we're making a tween, and then that tween is used to flash the the flash on and off. We gotta flash the flash on and off. And then we're getting the angle of the camera itself so that I can shoot the photo that it makes out. We're getting the path that I'm saving the most recent screenshot at. We have our settings, save game, level objects. We also have screenshots. This is all the photos that I've taken. You can see there's tons, but they're only 200, 100, or 195. They're in kilobytes. All the photos here are, let's just Control A. They're only 92 or 98 megabytes. Yeah. Anyway, not that much. They're only 512 by 512. When I was testing it before I had the film rolls, I could print 500 photos into a world, and it didn't really increase loading that much. VRAM usage went up ever so slightly. So we're getting that image path, and we're having a variable of the next screenshot that I'm trying to save. Whenever you start a new game, it currently is overwriting the previous screenshots that you have. or the previous like photos that you're taking, I think that's fine. I don't really think that's an issue. I might say that somewhere in the game, or in like an about section, so that if you wanted to save those images, make sure you save them before you start a new game or start taking new photos, because it will overwrite them. Because I don't want your user data to be filled with hundreds and hundreds of images. I don't think that's conducive to saving a lot of space on your disk. I don't want that. And then we're making a new variable called captured objects, and then we're making our new photo. So that's just gonna be one of the pickupables that I've already loaded for instantiating one. And then we're gonna wait a second because I wanted the flash to be visible inside of the photo. So we're waiting so that we can see the flash in the photo. And then for all of the bodies that are within that area, if it's pickupable, we're just appending that to the captured objects. I want there to be another system that saves larger objects that you can't pick up to interact with. I'm thinking that I want some kind of pool rooms level where you will have to take a power orb and put it into a boat. And there'll be this like large boat object. You have to power it up with a power orb, and then interact with the motor or something, and then you can move the boat. I think that would be cool, and I want to save the location and whether or not a power orb is inside that boat. And then I'll have other objects that you can take pictures of or save or whatever. And so I'm going to be checking their metadata, whether or not it's like a large object or something. But right now I just have it doing the pickupables because that's the only system I have like this right now. And then we're seeing the sub viewport of the camera. So I have in my camera, let's go to my camera right here, and we have a viewport here, and that's the viewport that has the camera on it. Interesting quirk of having a sub viewport in a camera. This camera would not move if I did not have I could have been doing it with code, of course, but it was easier to put to put a remote transform. This will move this camera wherever this is. Nice. And so we're getting whatever this viewport is seeing, and we're also setting this texture to that viewport. And then we're changing that next screenshot variable +1. We're also saving that in our level data, or like our player data, so that it can, when you save and load the game, we will know the next screenshot has to be taken so we don't overwrite screenshots that have already been taken. And then we have our relevant data. We're adding the path to that photo. So we're adding the photo, we're getting the photo that's just been added, and then we're reparenting that photo after. But before we do that, we need to be setting its index to the next index that I need to be populating, changing that, just incrementing that by 1, and then setting its relevant data to the objects that have been captured within that area, and then the path of the image. And that's pretty great. That's pretty easy. I really like this system. I think that's pretty great. It's going to be really fun to have to go around and maybe grow a specific thing, take a photo of it, put that photo into a device that'll scan that photo. It'll be looking for a specific object that's within it, and it'll let you through. It'll make the photos both useful and just cool. You're taking a photo within a game with a camera that exists in a game. Makes the world of the game feel a bit more real. I think that's awesome. I can't wait to add sounds for the camera. I like when you put a film roll into it. I mean, when you take pictures. That would be cool. And then we have our backpack function. So if we cannot backpack it, we're not going to backpack it. We return. But if we can backpack it, we're going to append our pickups index. So all the pickups that we picked up, we're going to append the index to it. The type that's been put into it. So we're just trying to get all the kinds of pickupables, like the name of it. So if it's power orb, we're putting power orb in there. If it's a film camera, we're putting the film camera in there. So we're just adding that metadata. And then we're also adding the data to that as well. We don't need to be saving position or anything like that, because why would you need to be saving the position of the object to your backpack? It's in your backpack. So that can be quite simple. And then we're making sure that we're not holding an object, setting its speed, and then we're recalculating the player's weight of the backpack. Cool. And then we're removing that object from the world after. And because I'm doing this and that the object still exists, I don't need to, like when I get it out and put it into your backpack, I don't need to be removing that index or adding that index at all, which is great. That's pretty simple. Throwing it is also pretty simple. We're just making sure it's not picked up anymore. If it can glide, we're setting that can glide to true. That does mean if you throw something like the camera, it is technically setting that variable can glide to true, but the camera doesn't use that variable. I could probably make some of these things better like that, but for now that's how I have it. I'm sure that would be better if I were using my own classes and extending those things so that I don't have to do that kind of stuff, but hey, this is good. It works for now, so it's pretty good. It loads in, my game loads pretty fast. All the stuff's there. Minimal bugs. Most of my bugs are just visual. Great. And then we're getting our camera angle, so we're seeing the angle of the camera. Its basis of the Z, and then we're subtracting that by -1 so that we're like reversing it, and then, or not subtracting, multiplying by -1 to reverse it. And then our glide rotation, we wanted the rotation of the Y to be plus a random range of -0.5 to 5, because when I threw my paper airplane, I want it to randomly turn left or right by a little bit of when you throw it. I could make the paper airplane like a lot more random, but I think it would be cool in the future if you are like, you can throw a paper airplane at a button to make that button then activate. I think that'd be cool, so that you could like remotely press a button from far away. I think that'd be a cool gameplay thing. And we also have our glide forward amount and our glide up amount that's getting set to a random thing. I could probably make it so we're checking the metadata so that on our throwing we could then be setting this stuff only if it is a thing that can be glide. So I should probably do that actually, so that less things are getting set when you throw them. But hey, it's pretty good, and I will do that later. And then if our camera angle is, this is like for the this kind of stuff is for the paper airplane or anything that can glide. If our camera angle on the Y is like way more up than I wanted it to, so like I didn't want it to be, if you were looking way up, the paper airplane would like fly like really far, or because like that doesn't make sense, right? When you throw a paper airplane straight up in the air, it's not gonna just like go crazy. So I make its glide up amount and glide forward amount less than 6, and then 0 for the up amount, if it's like up by a certain amount, which is great. I could probably make it so that amount is like modified by the camera angle amount, but I got it working okay. I like how it works for now. And then we're applying an impulse. So we're getting the camera angle that I got, so we're trying to throw it by the camera angle of the player, and then we have a throw strength, and then we are minusing that throw strength by the camera angle's Y. So like if you're looking straight up, it would be less than if you're just like looking forward. It's kind of yandere to have I'm using a bunch of if statements for things. Like I could make it a bit smarter, but it's good. I like it. It's readable for me, and it does what I want, and it's not too bad on performance. I can have a ton of things going at once, so it works. This is our glide function. We got our forward vec and our upward vec. We're getting our global transform for the object, and then we're applying a central impulse based on the forward amount and the upward amount, and I'm setting that as I throw it, and then we're doing that by the delta time so that it moves smoothly, and it won't get messed up if your game lags, or go crazy if your game lags. And then we're going to move our rotation towards that rotation that I wanted it to be. I got our chomper AI, our random here. It's not as good as my fish AI, so I have my lookout target here. Lookout target here. This gets called by both my chomper and my bluefish, my fishes. What I wanted is it to be a bit more complex for my fish. So if you're in the range of the fish and you're in the water, it will be trying to look away from you. And then if the fish has a friend, so sometimes the fish will want to go towards the other fish that it's around, it will set its direction to be going towards its fish friend. I think that's kind of a fun variable name, fish friend. And then it's going to try and go towards that fish. And then if it's not trying to go towards the fish, we are going to go towards its target. And then we're changing its basis of its target based on, I didn't do it for the fish friend because I want it to be like it's trying to go towards its friend faster at a fixed rate. But if it's not going towards its fish friend, I want it to be based on its linear velocity, so that sometimes if it wasn't moving very fast, it wouldn't turn very fast. And then I do that plus a magic number there, 0.3. I love my magic numbers. And then got our chomper AI here. I'm probably gonna redo this AI because I think I want to add like frogs or something to the game, and I kind of want it to have similar AI, so I might have like a jumping AI, and I'll probably refactor that, and then I can redo some of this so that it's a bit better. I'll do that in the future when I add that. I do like my fish AI, so we have our fish random here. I wanted it to be a bit better. So if I do want to be using my fish random for multiple types of fish, because I do think I want to add more fish. I did say that. So I'm probably going to redo some of this so that it'll want to go, it might have different kinds of fish friends, or whatever. But right now it's checking its overlapping bodies every so often to see if the player is in range. When it does that, when it changes its target, and then if it's in the liquid area, it'll just continue, because the AI target has an area. And then if it doesn't have, if it's not in a liquid area, it will change its target to the, like, just the center of the fish, and then it will change its target after that again, so that it changes it away from the fish after. So it won't just be like in the middle of the fish, and it'll be trying to turn towards its center, which would look kind of funky. And we have it just changing its, every so often it's looking for a random chance, and if that random chance happens to be low enough, it will try and change its... Oh, okay. The reason I did this is because I wanted it to change its target if the target was too close to the fish, so that it wouldn't be trying to move to a really close position of the fish. That's why I do that. And then every time I change its target, I'm changing the speed of the fish so that they aren't all moving at the same speed all the time. And then changing its target, and then I'm adding in a parameter of the target of the fish. And so this is look at target, but I have a different function here that actually changes the target for the fish. I'm probably going to, because you can see there's a chomper random look at target. The chomper, so yeah, it has its own function. I'm probably going to redo that so that the chomper might also use this change target function, and I'll probably change this change target function to be able to accept different kinds of AI. Not that kind of AI. Anyway, so that's why I have that there. Okay, and I have a parameter so that if I were to add different kinds of targets, so that I can have different kinds of AI using the same function. And then if it is a low enough chance, I want to I want it to forget its friend. It's kind of sad, but I don't want them to always be following a fish. I want them to be able to forget their fish. And the random chance has to be quite low for that to happen. So it's a very low chance for them to forget their fish friend, but they do forget their fish friends every so often. So that happens. And then if we're not in the player range, if fish friend is not null, we change our target position to the fish friend position, because I don't want it to directly go to the fish. I want it to go to the target so that they aren't like exactly following the fish. They don't like bump into each other and stuff. I could have made it like Boyd's, but I don't know. This is an interesting implementation, and it makes it look lifelike. That's to see if we're way above the fish or way below the fish, because I didn't want it to be too far below or too up high, because I didn't want the fish to be trying to go like way above the water or way below the water. And then we're changing our target's position, just plus a random vector of a range of 10 on the x and z, and then up or down by 0.5. We have our fish flop, so our fish flops when it's not in the water. We move our fins. Okay. And then I have the add to clip function. I made this a pretty universal function here, so that I can add whatever I want to this add to clip function. So I have the area that I'm adding it to, the visual of the clip, the what it accepts, the pickupable that it will accept, and the amount that it adds to. This is used for the camera. We're going to make sure that that relevant data isn't null before I do it. Probably just get rid of this, I don't need that anymore. We're going to make sure that our relevant data isn't null before we do anything, and then if our relevant data is more than 0, we don't want to be doing stuff if the clip visual isn't null. We're going to see if the clip visual is false, and if it is, or if the clip visual is hidden, we're going to make it hidden. If the clip visual is not hidden, we're going to make it hidden. It's 3 in the morning. And then we return, because if it is more than 0 in the clip, we want to just return. Don't add anything to the clip, don't do anything. And then we have our, we're waiting every so often because I don't want to be running this all the time. And then we're checking to make sure our clip area isn't null. And then we're checking all the bodies that are within the clip area. And then we're seeing if it's pickupable. If that's false, we're just going to continue. We're going to check for the next body. And then if it's not, if it is a pickupable, we're going to see if it is the pickupable that I've told it to check for, and if the relevant data is 0, so if the clip is empty, we're going to see if I am holding an object, and if that is the object that I put into the clip, and then we're going to change the holding object to false because we're about to remove that object, so that I don't have any issues with having the held object set to something. I should probably also set the held object to null, right? I definitely should. You know what, I'm going to do that right now, because that would make sense. Cool. I should be doing that. I'm just going to add that now. That would make sense. Anyway, we have our holding object then set to false, so we don't have any issues, and then queuing that free, and then we're setting our relevant data, so the clip filled amount. I didn't want to add another variable, so I'm just setting that to the relevant data, because I'm going to set that to the relevant data anyway, and then we're setting that to the amount that I'm adding it to, and this is used by the film camera on the add to clip, because I want it to be like, if you're just putting the film roll into that area where I want the clip to be added, that's where I do this. And then this is useful because if I want another pickupable or another thing, I can use the same function. So if I want, I can choose another area, choose another visual that I want to be turning on and off, choose a different pickupable, don't do that, and then change how much it gets added to that relevant data. This is a pretty good function. I like this function. And then we have our plant pot. Oh, I didn't show that earlier, but if our plant pot is inside of that water, we are making sure it gets wet when it's in the water. It also does the same thing with because the farm tile also checks that if the water particle touches the farm tile, it will increase its water amount. But I wanted the plant pot to get wet if you throw it in the water, so it uses the same function as the watering can. If you throw the watering can into the water, it will then also fill with water. And then we empty the water with the watering can, so that it doesn't just always have water in it. Our paper airplane glides, but it only glides if it's not picked up, and it can glide. This is our type react function. So like we're checking all of the different types of pickupables that have different functions. We see our seed isn't in here because our seed doesn't have any special stuff. Some pickupables won't have any special information like seeds. We don't need them to do something funky. They don't do anything funky. But that also means, like, if I wanted a certain seed to be able to glide for some reason, I would just check if metadata pickupable, like is seed, or like a grass seed, for example. We can make the grass seed glide if I wanted to, or I could copy that and put it in my chomper, and my chomper could glide. You know, if I wanted a flying fish, I could make sure that if the flying fish is out of the water, I add that glide to it. So I'm trying to make this system be really useful. And then we have a create water drop function here that's for the watering can, but I also want it to be useful for different kinds of things, where I want there to be thirst in the game, or like some kind of like, I do think I want thirst in the game. So I want you to be able to drop water out of anything. So if I have a water exit spot, I change that. So we have an empty water function. Our water exit spot then gets, we add a particle to that, and then we're getting the last particle, and then if that last particle isn't null, because sometimes it might get removed, we change its velocity to the velocity of the pickupable, and then we add its velocity to a random, just a random vector there, and we change its emitting body to the self so that it's not going to collide with the thing that it's emitting, and then we change its water amount to the amount that I'm dropping it out of, so that I think that the create water drop, it gets called by empty water. Empty water is here. And then we're gonna do this every second, because I don't want it to be happening all the time. If the water fill amount is more than 0, so if it has water in it, we're going to check the angle of the pickupable. If it's more than 0.5 on the z, on the y of the z basis, and it's not submerged, so if it's not underwater, we're going to then decrease its water fill amount by the delta. Then we're also going to create a water drop by that amount, so it's going to create a lot of water drops. Yeah, but it's not going to, that water drop is going to have the amount that it's been decreased by, so you're not really losing any water, but more water drops are being created. So it's it's like the water drops, like they have less water in those drops of water, but they're all like, it's kind of like, you know, when you pour water out of a watering can that has a bunch of tiny holes in it, it's going to spray that water a lot more. That's kind of what I wanted the effect to look like. But it's not really going to be a ton of water that's coming out of each one of those little holes. That's kind of what I wanted the effect to look like there. And then we're making sure that that relevant data is getting set to that water fill amount, just because I didn't want the, I wanted to be able to save the water that's in there. I probably should change that, but just so it's just the relevant data, because I would like to have less variables, but I got it, okay. And we have our fill with water function. So we're saying the source of the water. If the source of the water is a if it's a particle, I'm going to change that to the particle. If it's a particle there. If it's the, you see there, I have fill with water. If it's a water plane though, we're just going to, we don't really have a special check for that. We just do it if it's submersed, because if it's submersed, I just want to fill it with water. I don't have any other different liquid types. I can probably change that in the future, but right now that's just how I have it. I don't know if I'm going to add any other different liquids to the game, but right now I have water, so that's it. And then we're doing a arbitrary magic number of 6 times delta to fill with the water if it's submersed. Okay, and then this is our float process. Our delta is not used, that's why we have an underscore in front of float process, even though I was calling it there. Delta is not being used for it. That's just something that isn't using delta. So if it's in the water and it's not picked up, so you can like hold something while it's in the water and it won't be trying to float, we're setting its can glide and it's thrown to false, just so if I throw a paper airplane into the water, it's not going to keep trying to glide or whatever. If it can be filled with water, we're going to do something different from if it doesn't have that, right? So if the can fill, we're going to check the metadata. So our can fill metadata can be like how much water it can be filled with. If that's equal to the fill amount of the water, I don't want it to float. It's just going to sink. It's not really going to have any buoyancy either. It's just going to fall through the water if it's completely filled with water. I kind of like how that looks. It's kind of interesting, but that's how it is. And then we're applying an impulse, and then we're applying a impulse here as well, so that times our linear velocity, so that like dampens the movement of the object. And then this is the buoyancy here, so that we're doing it by the up vector. We should have an up vector there, and then we're doing that times the mass, and then this is like times 0.9, kind of arbitrary buoyancy amount there, and then times the min max of 3, so it won't ever like more than 3, and then our maximum there is 0, so it won't ever be less than 0, but our this is by our depth minus our water fill amount, so that as it's filling with water, it will start to like sink. And then our regular floating script just does that by its depth. So it doesn't really check its water fill amount. And then this dampens it, and it also locks its rotation because I didn't want it to rotate while it's in the water. I don't know, it looked kind of weird when it was. I could have maybe changed its, like, I could maybe do something like that with the dampening, but that works. And then if it's not in the water, we're going to make sure it's not submersed and whatever. Our float in water check is like what checks if it's submersed. So if the depth of the water is, our depth of the water is going to be the water height. So when it first touches the water and it's now in the water area, we're going to set its water height to the height of the actual water plane. And then that's going to be minus the global position of the object itself, and then minus the sine wave divided by 8. And then we're doing that by the ticks per second. And then if our depth is more than 0.3, we're saying it's submersed. And then if it has the floats metadata, we do the floats process. And then we get the self metadata floats if it's true or false. That's just because I wanted, if it has the metadata floats, I still want it to do the float process because I want objects to check whether or not, if they're in water, if they're not in water, they're not submersed. I could maybe move this into the float in water, but you know, this works too. If it floats, it does this. If it doesn't float, it won't do it. I could probably change that around, make that better, but this works. The remove function currently isn't used. I had that for other stuff, but this isn't used because if I'm removing something, it's going to be in the level, and when I remove it, I don't have this used anymore, so I could probably comment it out or just remove it. Our sound process, we're checking our absolute value of the linear velocity. If it's more than 2, it's just arbitrary amount of 2. We're checking for all the colliding bodies of the self. If that body has the metadata material, we're going to check if the hit sounds and the globals has that material as one of the sounds. We're going to set the material collided to the material that the body has collided with, and then we're going to, just because I wanted to get that, I don't think that's even, is that used? Looks like I got that there. Right, it's used there. And the global set sounds because I wanted to see and check and use what sound, because I'm loading those sounds when the game first starts. Then I'm just setting the sound player to do that, and then I'm randomly changing its that's not random, it's for the pitch scale, but I'm changing its max decibel volume to be the linear velocity minus just a little bit, just so it won't be very loud. And that's just so it'll sound quieter if it's not moving very much. Wow, okay. And then on our process, if we press backpack and we're hovering over the object or it's been picked up, we do our inventory weight. If it is more than or equal to the inventory max space, we're going to give a notification to the player that the backpack is full. And if it's less than that, we're going to backpack the pickupable. And that's on the process. And then on the physics process, we float in the water, locked player, type react. So, holy shit. That was a lot to explain. My 868 long pickupable script. It's a lot. I could probably condense this, move it to different scripts if I wanted to. But for right now, this is what I have, and I'm actually quite proud of it. I really like it a lot. I think I did a really good job with this. It definitely could be better. But hey, I like what I've done so far. It's quite complex, and it's a pretty alright system. I have a lot of different things in the system. It probably isn't the best to use the same script for everything, but I didn't want to have to keep copying code. I found that copying code was the thing I hated the most, so I just wanted to use one script for a bunch of different things. It might have that God script problem, but you know what, I like this. It might have a bit of a long if tree thing. It's not the best, but some things are okay and smart. Like I like some of the new functions I'm adding, like the add to clip, where I just have a bunch of parameters and I can change what I want to be doing. I'm probably going to go back and change a bunch of my different functions here to be like that. Like I have my move fins function, so that if I have a fish that I want to have different types of fins, or like if I have a different fish, I can change the fins that I want to be rotating, I'm going to have a bunch of different things like that. I'm going to change it around so that more of my functions can have multi-purpose stuff going on. Especially with my AI functions, like if I want to have a frog, I want it to have similar AI to my chomper, but like I want it to have different functions within that. So like if it was like an enemy, maybe it would have a jumping AI, but it would want to move towards you instead of away from you. Different kinds of stuff. Alright, well, that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. If you stayed this long, thank you for listening to me ramble on about my crazy game that I've been making. I'm gonna keep working on it. Working on this game brings me a lot of joy. I'm really quite happy with how it's been going so far. It just brings me a lot of joy thinking about all the different ideas, making art for it, like making settings menu, making art for the UI, and just thinking about different problems and how to tackle them. I think this is just so fun. You don't have to be the greatest at making stuff to make stuff. Just start. I haven't really coded anything in quite a long time before I started doing this, and I looked at the docs and I just went for it. If you're gonna make a game, now's the time to start making a game. This is all free and open source. Definitely do support the developers if you can, because this is wonderful. Being able to make your own game is really great. The documentation is lovely. It is rich with how much information is in the docks, you know? So definitely the chomper doesn't know that that's in front of him. Interesting. I don't want to fix it right now. I'm right over here. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm gonna keep working on this. I love working on it. Yeah. Bye-bye. Also, wait. You are a vampire right now. There is a... It's completely dark. Look at that. It's really dark in here. You are a vampire. You cannot take a photo of yourself because there's nothing to take a photo of. Isn't that crazy? You are a vampire. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.